It seems as though Ashley may have a situation recognizing game when it's right there in front of her. Because right about now, Matthew sure is running it.
And Brent is acting like a rooster in a hen house, and it's not going to go well for some of those ladies.
Welcome to Cliff Alerts. Today we're going to be talking about TV One's reality-based TV series, The One, season number 1, episode number 8.
But before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe. Please click that notification button so you know when we upload new content. Please give us a like, send us your comments, and we appreciate and thank you for your support. So here we go.
Yeah, this episode began as a continuation from last one, didn't it? Yeah, apparently Brent, who you referenced, had a little bit of a situation going on.
Well, Ashley came to his room immediately. He apologized for his rank behavior, disrespected Ashley when he and Brian had their back and forth the night before. He takes the time to apologize to her. She accepts his apology. One of the women, she didn't say any names, came to her and told her that Jazzy spent the night with him and that the woman was upset. And he said maybe that person needs to focus more on their thing than on what he's doing. And then Ashley had to remind him if she was in that position, she too would feel a kind of way.
And also, too, he threw in a little bit of a side note here. Nothing happened.
He then said when she reminded him of that, he thinks that there may be some jealousy involved on Micah's part.
Exactly.
And that he doesn't think that he wants that kind of energy in the house.
I can't begin to understand why he would say that that was jealousy coming from Micah regarding that.
It's not something that a man would typically say. That's how I felt. I felt like he had a conversation with a woman and she said stuff about jealousy.
I agree with you that men typically don't talk in those
They
in that
don't do
way
that.
about
No, they
jealousy.
don't.
Emmy actually sought out Ashley to kind of get the details on what she had heard that had happened the night before. So she wanted specific details from Ashley.
Yeah, and Ashley said that, she had an interesting night,
Mhm.
that she spent it with Matthew
Mhm.
and she did not want to kiss him, but a kiss happened between them. They shared a kiss. And when you're grown, when you're particularly a grown woman, you don't have to lie about stupid shit. I mean, that's just my philosophy. Ashley's body language with Matthew was she was giving him the eyes. She was leaning forward. Their bodies were touching. And that is indicative of a woman who wants to be kissed by a man. Who does she think she's fooling? Does she believe no woman out there don't recognize the signs of a woman who wants a man to kiss her?
Well, I don't know about that part of it, but I know from the guys' end, I ain't buying it either for
Yeah,
a different
because
reason.
I mean, the men will see the signals.
Exactly.
She leans forward, he's gonna lean forward too.
Yeah,
They're
the,
gonna
the
be
lip locking.
they're gonna do the eyes, they're gonna be the
Right.
flirt.
Right.
She trying to fool. Be grown in this moment. Don't stand there and tell me, oh, you didn't want to kiss.
Capping, huh? With a straight
She
face, huh?
she's remorseful about what happened based on the incident with Brent because now they have a mini revolt on their hands. Brent is sleeping with someone, and the other women who are in the house
See it.
supposed to be there to get a connection, but he's already um um weeding out the weakest link. And that's who he got with. A man will always go for low-lying fruit first.
So apparently you don't believe him when he said nothing happened.
Please,
I
please.
thought you were going to say something in front of that.
Allegedly, allegedly.
Mhm.
But in any event, I just can't stand grown people say they want to get involved in a real relationship and they can't even be honest with themselves.
And expect you to buy into what they shove
Clear
at.
understand that in a relationship, when you get together, that's the only thing that you could run on. Honesty, that vulnerability.
The short answer is maybe not from them.
Kurt comes through and he sits down with with Brent to find out, okay, what happened. And Brent laid his song and dance out by saying that Brian came after him. He called him goofy, and
So he said, so he processed.
so that's how he processed it, and
Brian
yada
did not,
yada yada.
Brian did not call him goofy.
The other situation about the lady sleeping in your room.
Had to call Brent out on that one and basically told him, hey, look, I hear what you're saying, but you know what? You have to understand that there are other women in this house who are watching how you move. Disconnect.
That there was a disconnect with him doing whatever he did with Jazzy and the other women who were, let's say, putting their lives on hold to participate in this process.
I would tend to agree based on what he had said earlier to Ashley about how he thinks everybody should focus on themselves when Ashley approached him prior to that conversation.
Kurt had to break it down for him. Kurt told him straight up, I'm
Look, bruh,
disappointed.
hold up. You can't move like that in this situation. You foul.
He apologized.
Yeah, Brett finally admitted that, yeah, maybe you're right. I should not have done that because of the optics of it all. Oh, really? You finally, the light bulb finally went off in your head.
Does he have any kind of restraint? Now you're here to be intentional and find a one. You can't restrain yourself enough to go through a process like this?
Well, I think that maybe he, in a momentary lapse of judgment, was trying to be the one rather than find the one.
Goes into the kitchen and all the ladies are there.
Yep.
Maika tells him the story about they went to Brent's room to de-escalate the situation. Maika and Jazzy stayed. Maika said throughout the time they were in his bedroom, they were touching and kikiing and what have you, and Jazzy fell asleep. She got up to leave and told Brent that he should wake Jazzy up, and he said he's not doing that. So she left the room, but she got upset that Jazzy was in the room with him. And that's understandable because they're in the house for them to find out whether he is their special person and vice versa. So if you're gonna choose one, then why are we here? You got is this show about going through all of them
one at a time?
One at a time? Or in multiple?
Right.
Because
right.
he said he liked threesomes, right?
Oh my goodness. He was just really, um, really completely disconnected from how he looked at that moment.
Richie said that she could be doing something else because she put her life on hold. Like he already wrapped up into one lady. And Jazzy was not present in the kitchen when they had the discussion. She had to go to work. So everyone in the kitchen had something to say and couldn't encourage them to stay, and let stuff unfold. And in voice me.
Right. Now, for him to say that was just kind of, it was kind of punkish. Hmm. Because he, first of all, it was a situation, a scenario that was set up of his own doing. That's the first thing. And secondly, he didn't seemingly, after seeing the fallout of it, didn't want to take ownership of it and go ahead and deal with it on top of the table. He just decided that I guess he was going to play a victim role right then and there, and and kind of move on from there. I didn't agree with that way of thinking and that way of responding at all.
So they go out and they're playing touch football, and Ashley's self-esteem
Issues came to the forefront.
to the forefront because
Right.
she claimed that Dante wasn't paying her any attention. Ask yourself, why is the man there if not for you?
And this is a fun activity. You don't need to be so
It
caught
to
up.
me it seemed like Ashley wants the men to be up on top of her 24/7.
Yes.
And you got to give man space to breathe.
Yes.
Give him a chance for him to miss you a little bit.
How do you say thirsty? She's extremely thirsty. Is she dehydrated?
Oh my God! And the show is about her and Brett.
So what is she
So what
feeling
is
so
that about?
insecure about that where she has to
Exactly.
respond that way? And she said that in the confessional, right?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, I don't get why she's feeling so
Insecure?
yeah, insecure right at that moment. I don't know where that came from. I mean, obviously Dante as well as Shubar and the rest of the gang or the rest of the guys rather were involved in a football game and everybody's having fun. It's just that. It's just that.
That a show is structured around you finding love. And all the men are there right front and center in an intense kind of way.
2 words. Grow up.
I think so.
Just a suggestion.
After the football game, Aid and Ashley had a little picnic.
Yeah, Eddie B told Ashley that he thinks that she needs to have have some space right about now. But as long as there's space for him, you can't blame the brother for that. Politicking that way, can you?
No.
Well, no. I
No,
mean, he
you
is part
gotta
of
have a line, right?
you gotta have the part of he's got to be part of the process. But
Right.
I like the way he kind of like worked that in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, smooth.
Remind you of somebody, huh?
A little bit,
Uh-huh.
a little bit. But he was right.
Yeah,
He was right.
yeah.
And because space is probably what would do Ashley well right about now at this point in this part in the process
I
of
would
her episode.
imagine so. So they had a conversation about Abe and his father.
And one of the things that Aide said that was really interesting about his relationship with his father was that it was beautiful on one hand and it was tough on the other. And that was part of what made him who he was and what he appreciated about that relationship with his father. Brian and Brett talked one on one. Yeah, the fellas had a chance to chop it up. And the reason being is because Brett felt like, or was told from my vantage point, that he needed to set it straight and apologize to Brian for kind of coming off on him in front of the group the night before. And he did so. And Brian kind of reciprocated it. Look, man, I wasn't trying to call you goofy. I was referencing just the scenario regarding the cell phone, and you know that was it. That was it. It was not directed personally at you. So they dapped it up, and everything's good between them now.
Meanwhile, Jazzy is back in the house, and little Miss Messy, Mika, she came through and she had a conversation with Jazzy about what Maika said about Jazzy sleeping in the room with Brett. But the way how Miss Messy framed it, it seemed like she was trying to say that Maika was blaming her for being in the bed. So, of course, she volunteered to go get Maika so she could explain to Jazzy what was said.
She's staring the pot.
Always be mindful of women who like to always have stories share with you. Because if they can share gossip with about somebody else with you, trust and believe they're sharing your ish with somebody else as well. That's a life lesson. The old people used to be on the pews and just watch somebody cut their eyes up and down, and they know.
Not the old folks on the pew.
Yeah, I mean, they will just cut your eye and they will ask you, baby, is that your friend?
Lawyer ain't got nothing on him, did he?
So, of course, Maika came through, and Jazzy came with a nice nasty about how she grown. And Maika breaks down the story that she was concerned about leaving her in Brent's room
And her
asleep,
well-being, right?
and was concerned about her well-being.
That's how I read it.
So Miss Jazzy didn't say, well, I appreciate or thank you. She went into that nice, nasty thing. She talked about, oh, they're grown and they could do whatever they want to do. And this is a competition.
And how she's not there to make friends with anybody.
Is your puss part of the competition? Giving up your what? Because I don't understand. I don't know why that is a bargaining chip. Finding a man in your life should never be a competition because you have a choice to say yeah or nay. You, the totality of who you are as a woman, should never be in competition with another woman. You devalue yourself when you do that. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right on point with it, and I think that there are a lot of people, a lot of viewers out there who not only thought the same thing, but think and or perceive in a very similar way.
That's why these shows go afoul.
But that's also one of the reasons why the people like to watch them because they like to see people who think of this type of scenario as a competition and are willing to do anything to anyone
Because just
in order to win it.
just as Brent have a decision about who he chooses, they too have a decision whether they want him or not.
Yep,
And
agreed.
that should not disappear because you're in competition. Forget competition.
Mhm.
Value yourself hard and strong and long enough to know you don't have to put yourself in competition with anything or anybody.
I think that's well said. I think that's well said.
Kurt comes back now and they have to choose. So Ashley's time now to choose who goes forward. And Ashley chose Cheval first. He's the mortgage banker.
Right. She followed that up with Brian, Adibi, and Matthew. On the guy's side, Brent had to do the same thing, so he started off by choosing Mika. Okay. Then he followed that up with Melissa, Richie, and Ashley were the first four.
Steve and
Dante,
Dante and Maika and Jazzy.
Jazzy. Yeah, Ashley has a tough decision to make between her two remaining
Really?
selections. No, not
Ashley
really.
don't have.
Not really. Not really.
Ashley don't have a tough decision.
Not really. But she conveys to the group that the reason why she is selecting her final choice, Steve, to be the one to move on in the process at One Mansion is because of something that he did.
He spoke to the men after the argument
Right,
between
Brian
Brian
and
and Brett.
Right,
He talked about how men should diffuse situations rather than have it escalate.
right. And he can understand that.
She thought that was good. And then she said, Dante, she hopes he finds someone, but she was a little bit mean, nasty towards him.
And speaking of nasty, when we transitioned to Brent and how he had to deal with the situation between Maika and Jazzy, it was, shall we say, at the very least, nasty.
But one thing we forgot to mention is that Ashley told the entire group that when she chose Matthew, that although they had a moment that they shared a kiss, she is attracted to him, but that doesn't mean that she has dismissed all the other guys in the house. She said that to him. And I think that was some residue from what Brent had done, because as far as we know, Brent didn't have any conversation with any of the ladies after the incident was known that Jazzy slept in his bedroom. Instead of Brent talking to Maika in a way that is respectful and honorable, he starts talking to Jazzy about how he believes she's all these good, fantastic things. And for Maika, he knew if anybody had her back, it would be her.
It's back, yeah.
And then he switched it up, but she brought some issue
Negative
into
energy.
negative energy into the house, and he's not gonna stand for that. So she's the one who will be leaving the house tonight. That's how he framed it, as if the house belonged to him.
Well, not only did he move foul that way, but he also was what is it? Arrogant enough or
He
narcissistic enough?
shifted that
Right.
that thing
Yeah, he
from
shifted the burden
himself
of blame, the
to her.
responsibility of him initiating that conversation with her just to make sure that her as a guest and he were on the same page about what had happened. He waited, which is what he said, for her to do that. And obviously that didn't happen. So he used that lack of conversation and opportunity against her.
Because Micah said that he didn't search her out. He didn't have a conversation. He ignored her all day long.
Who started it?
And then he now frames it that she brought the negative energy, telling the group that Jazzy slept in his room. And I thought it was a punk move. I can't respect men who move like that.
Well, neither did Micah in her confessional either. She was very critical of Brent, and I think rightfully so, because this all started because of his actions.
Right.
And so he should have been the one to say, and Kirk mentioned this to him, so it got him to see this, that, hey, look, man, you ought to take the bull by the horns, initiate this thing, and say, hey, look, I got to do better. I got to move a different way because of not only optics, but also too because real men don't move like that. You got to consider how women in this situation are going to feel and or respond. So you need to be the one to initiate not only the conversation and the dialogue, but a better movement on your part.
That didn't sit well with Kurt, how he spoke to her.
Right.
And how he shifted the responsibility of what occurred onto her as if she was the problem. He was the one who set fire to what they were doing. Kurt challenged what Brent did in a hard way. So it was clear to him that, he was the one who should have tried to resolve this rather than now twisting it and changing it and spinning it to make it seem like Maika was the problem. Everyone is laid back now. They're eating food, they're drinking, and all that other stuff. And Brent comes through with Brian, Ashley, and Jazzy, and he starts shouting that nothing happened, nothing happened.
At this point, does it matter?
Brian, he starts asking Jazzy if she's a woman. If
Yeah, there was a little bit of a disagreement going on.
yeah, there was something. So, and Ashley immediately want him to conform to her sensibilities, which is what I can't understand. If you want to check for a man, you gotta check to the what he brings rather than trying to curtail or stop how he moves.
Sure.
Don't hold his breath to satisfy or appease you.
Well, apparently she didn't understand that maybe she was doing such, and she may have missed an opportunity to really learn something about Brian, in terms of who he really is.
Right, because when you get with a group of people, some people are loud, some people go back and forth, they talk over you. You're not critical of the person if that's how they roll. That's how they roll. She left out the room, she was angry, and she said she needed to talk. And the only person she could talk to was Matthew. And guess what? Evidently, they knew about the cameras outside her door.
But it didn't stop her from sashaying into his room,
But
did it?
no, she didn't sashay. She ran like she stole some cookies out of the cookie jar.
And didn't want to get caught.
Didn't want to get caught.
Oh.
That was a little girl move. That was not a grown woman move. If you want to do what you want to do, if you want to do your business with Matthew, as a woman, you don't have to run and dart in the room so nobody could see you. You
Walk your ass in there.
you walk your ass in there and do whatever you want to do. That's the only thing that's on your mind right now.
She's going to be the other side of the coin, so to speak, from what Brent had to do.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out in the next episode. Really
She's
be able
not going
to
to be able to be free.
right until she deals with that part of the
Exactly.
issue, and I'm talking about in a public way.
And
And we've
that's
already
why
seen an example of how it's not been done effectively or constructively on the part of Brent. Do you think she'll say that she'll do a Brent and say nothing happened, or
I think she will begin to understand that the journey she was on, she unfortunately had to detour it for someone who was not deserving of that detour.
so? In other words, you feel like she got sidetracked.
I think she will feel a strong sense of regret.
Okay, we'll see how she either handles it or mishandles it the next go around.
In your relationships, you may do stuff with other people, and then when it's over, you wonder, why did I do that? Why am I here?
Sure.
And that sense of regret is the first thing that hits you, or disappointment is the first thing that hits you. I think she will have to deal with that. She doesn't know Matthew, and a 3-year journey was set aside because she felt attracted. Again, I asked the question, is it your heart that's attracted, or is it your what one?
And that's all presuming that that's what happened.
That's what happened.
We'll see how she either handles it or mishandles it the next go around.
Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. God bless you. God keep you. It's hot. Um, these summers remind me why I have no intentions of going to hell.
Okay.
It's not gonna be 76 degrees. I know I'm from the Caribbean, but I don't do heat very well. So that's why I'm trying to stay off that cliff as much as I